So the Cleveland Browns have the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and they are in a pretty weird situation. Because of some of the decisions they have made over the last 2 decades, they are in a situation where it really feels like everyone on the board is like, please don't pick me. And I'm here to tell you why the QB the Browns need is not actually projected to go in the first round. And I'm going to talk about the difference between a front office pick and a Haslam pick. Because if a certain player does get drafted, we know it was from Haslam, once again completely overriding all thought and logic. So yeah, there's a ton to talk about right now with the Cleveland Browns. But first off, before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and with your support, I believe that we can get there super fast. Alright, so according to Melcaper's new mock draft, the Browns are now projected to take Travis Hunter. I know you all know how high I am on Abdul Carter, but honestly, I don't care what happens, as long as they are completely stupid and don't take a QB top 3. I'd be fine with them trading down and getting a guy like Milroe. They'd have to trade way down to get him. I don't think he's even worthy of a first round pick. I thought he really showed who he is in his last bowl game, but I think he's a guy that could buy the Browns another year to get to Arch Manning in next year's draft. And I'd even be happier if they traded way down and in a later round took a guy like Will Howard or Jackson Dart, because the Browns aren't going to be a contender next year. Like I said, I would rather just get someone cheap to buy this team a season and tank again, because the real generational talent may be available next season, even if it's not Arch Manning. Because I really do feel that after another season in college of developing, Drew Aller is going to be a top 5 pick as well. I know his last playoff game was very rough, but he still has all the tools and the size to be a good QB at the NFL level with proper coaching and good skill position players around him. So of course, after an incredibly rough, and honestly for once, unexpectedly horrible season for the Browns, they found themselves 3-14, and as we all know, they now have the number 2 overall pick. This team does have a lot of glaring issues, but multiple people, including Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward themselves, believe this team is not that far off, with Denzel Ward being quoted saying, "We're not that far off, we just got to solidify the quarterback position." Obviously, we all know the case with Deshaun Watson, and it is pretty much confirmed that he will be unavailable all of 2025, which means he will most likely never play a snap for the Cleveland Browns again. This may help the Browns, however, as if that is the case, they have a $44 million insurance in his contract that they could use so they could help better this team. Of course, something they would have to nail is something they have not had since they traded for Deshaun Watson, and that is a first round pick. And this year is a very big decision. This front office and Kevin Stefanski kind of have their backs against the wall here, as a lot of fans in Cleveland are calling for their jobs after what just went down with Watson. So it is absolutely crucial they do the right things this offseason. There are so many options, but I really just want them to take the best player available. Unless they trade back, that's also completely fine with me, because right now the more picks the better. That will really help fix some of the holes and fix the depth problems. Up until recently, it was expected that the Titans would select Cam Ward at number 1. However, there is a little bit of doubt now, as Titans GM Mike Borgonzi said that the Titans will not pass up on a generational talent. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear generational talent, my mind immediately jumps to Travis Hunter, because we all know he truly is one of a kind. So if the Browns had a choice of their QB at 2, I think Cam Ward is the more talented of the two. However, I think the Browns would have to change their offense a little bit to fit his style, which is a path they went down last year, and it completely backfired with Deshaun. Obviously, things could be different with Ward, as he is extremely talented. I don't know if he's as arrogant, but I do not know if that is something Kevin Stefanski would like to do, as he takes back over the play calling duties this year. The other option at the number 2 spot is of course Shedeur Sanders, who is much more of a pocket passer and would likely fit the Kevin Stefanski offense a lot more. He is extremely accurate and has great escapability, something that is much needed in the Stefanski offense that we have all watched over the last 3 or 4 years. He doesn't have the best arm strength, which may hurt him a little bit, but he still has time to develop and get better. Either of these options, I would not blame the Browns for taking, because in the AFC, you need an elite QB to compete with the likes of Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow, and eventually you will have to take a swing at the position. I really don't think that either of these guys will jump in and beat Jaden Daniels right away and match the success he has had, but these are guys that in 2 to 3 years from now could be amongst the elite in the NFL if they are developed right, but the Browns don't develop players, so I just don't have high hopes. Anyways, another route the Browns could go would be to not draft a QB at 2, and for this case, let's say the Titans do in fact take Cam Ward as they are expected to do, because let's be honest, they probably should, as their QB situation is pretty bad. This of course leaves Travis Hunter to the Browns, and I would absolutely love that. There's no exact word out yet on what Travis Hunter is going to play in the NFL, but from what I've heard, he's expected to play a lot of corner with a little bit of wide receiver, and I think this would be a great fit. because playing with Denzel Ward would be incredibly hard to throw against. And then of course, we have all seen what he can do on the offensive end, and I think he would be an instant playmaker. Even if he is only out there for like 10 to 20 plays a game, I think he can make a big impact on those key third downs. But a whole nother non-QB option would be Abdul Carter, and his name has picked up a lot of steam since his run in the college football playoff, and a lot of Browns fans love the idea of him on one side with Myles Garrett on the other. That would truly be a scary sight for opposing offensive lines, as many people are already comparing Carter to Micah Parsons. They could be a dominating pass rush for years to come, and if the Browns want to get back to that elite defense they had 2 years ago, then this would be a step towards that. There are a few other, maybe more unlikely options that they still could go get that are very talented players, such as Mason Graham, who would solve the Browns' interior D-line problem, but I just think there are far bigger things to take care of. But I really would not mind this if the Browns traded back, because he could be a problem. And in terms of trading back, which I've kind of been talking about, here's what that actually realistically could look like. If the Browns were to trade down but still wanted a super high pick, I think it would either be with the Raiders at 6 or the Jets at 7. And then from there they could slide into that spot, gather some picks from one of those two teams, which will likely be bad again next year, and then take a solid player as well. Amongst the players they could maybe take at 6 could be Ted McMillan, the 6'5" wide receiver from Arizona who is a freak athlete and prospect, and had 1,300 yards and 8 TDs last season, and would slide into this offense perfectly. And then there is Will Johnson, who much like Hunter, would give the Browns that elite cornerback away from Denzel Ward after MJ Emerson kind of regressed last year, and I think everyone in Cleveland is pretty uncertain about Greg Newsome's future. And then they could even take one of those two great Georgia linebackers and Jalen Walker or Michael Williams. I know I'm kind of going all over the place right now, but there are so many different routes the Browns can go, and it's only January. There is so much time to talk about this, so I just kind of want to throw out random hypotheticals, and I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. And of course, with either scenario 2 or 3, I would still expect and like to see them draft a QB in the second or later rounds, and there's a few guys such as Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, or even National Championship Offensive MVP Will Howard that I think would be great fits. And I think each of these guys are very intriguing in their own ways, because Milroe has the ties to newly hired offensive coordinator Tommy Rees, so maybe he is pushing hard for the Browns to get him, since he has had success with him in the past. And then Jackson Dart has been tied to the Browns for a little while as well, as he has a pretty solid arm, but still has a lot to improve on, such as being able to drive the ball from the pocket, and he would have to sit on the sideline and develop before we could see him get to his full potential. And the Browns just don't have a QB for a guy like that to sit behind and learn from, so really, you'd just be throwing him out in the wildfire. You'd probably ruin him, but then again, the Browns would have 2 wins, and they'd be picking very high next year. But outside of the draft, another path this team could go would be signing a veteran like Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields, or maybe someone bigger like a Sam Darnold or Matt Stafford, which is highly unlikely, but again, I'm just throwing out random hypotheticals that may have an 0.0001% chance of happening. But yeah, no matter what the Browns do, like I said earlier, it is very important they get it right, and I cannot wait to see what happens and how they play this out, even though I know there's a 99% chance that the front office is going to fail, because that's what's happened over the last 2.5 decades. This is a cursed team. They play at a stadium that is located above an Indian burial ground. There's just something to it. I don't know how they consistently get everything wrong, but hey, that's just the Cleveland Browns, and that is why they play at the Factory of Sadness. But yeah, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Again, I know I was completely all over the place. Just ignore half the stuff I said. I'm just kind of ranting because I really would just like to see some change for once, no matter what has to happen. But yeah, let me know what you would like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.